Hey everyone, welcome to the Renegade Report. I am Ramon, and welcome to a very cold, wet, and dark Johannesburg. I've been load shed twice in 12 hours. I think Eskom really hates my suburb. Who knows? Maybe it's too white, so they are happy to load shed us twice in 12 hours. But I thought the goings on at Eskom provided a great opportunity to talk about Transformania. So if you look at what Eskom has said about its workforce, they want it to be demographically representative. So you might be thinking, what the hell is that? Well, it's very simple. The employees at Eskom, their race must reflect the demographics of the country. So 85% of Eskom employees need to be black, 4 or 5% need to be white, 1% must be colored, and the rest can be Indian or Chinese or however the demographics work out. I don't have them in front of me. But what has happened is instead of looking at employees in terms of competence and merit and skills, they look for arbitrary things like race. And that erodes a lot of the organizational competence of Eskom. So they have received an overwhelmingly new influx of employees in the past 10 years. I think over 15,000 new people are working at Eskom. Yet, we are stuck with load shedding because plants haven't been adequately repaired. The maintenance is poor. The general state of the power plants are in a terrible shape. And it appears that despite the huge influx of employees, those employees cannot actually do the job that they are paid to do. And there's a very good reason for that. Competence and merit are not requirements for employment at Eskom. Now, it is not the fault of the employees that they are employed without the necessary skills or competence, but it is the fault of a policy that allows that to happen. Now, I am not saying black engineers or Indian engineers or anything like that they are incompetent. However, what I am saying is prioritizing people based on race instead of competence is what leads to dysfunction, and competence, organizational competence, degrades because a skill is a difficult thing to have, difficult to accrue. If you are an engineer who's been working at Eskom for 40 years, who has a PhD or a master's in engineering, you are much better than a new engineering graduate with no experience and no PhD. It is that simple. But Eskom doesn't care too much about that. They want everything to be demographically representative. So they would hire people who are not adequately skilled to replace extremely skilled engineers. And the inadequately skilled engineers are expected to do the same sort of job. And if they can't do that job, they just hire another one, and another one, and another one. So you have 4 or 5 people replacing one person who doesn't fit the race criteria that Eskom wants. And that leads to degeneration. That leads to a skill shortage. That leads to blackouts. It's important to note how pervasive this policy is, this Transformania actually is. It prioritizes arbitrary things. And if you prioritize things, especially in production or jobs or things like that, if you prioritize things that are not based on the skill or competence for that job, you inevitably flip over the competence hierarchy of that system. You hollow out the productivity of that system. And that's exactly what is happening in Eskom and in SOEs across the country. And unfortunately, it is based upon equality of outcome without any care in the world about inputs. You wouldn't need to have 5 engineers to do the job of one previous engineer if the education system was fine, or if there were enough universities in the country, or people were free to choose what they wanted to study. Instead, what you have is a terrible education system, a terrible crime problem, horrible regulations that do not allow certain people to work in places like Eskom. So Eskom has to make do with less experienced engineers. And ultimately, it leads to those less experienced engineers not being able to fulfill their duties. Imagine how it feels to be employed for a job you're not qualified for. It must be terrifying. I feel very sorry for those sort of people. But they are not the problem. The problem is the policy. And without a change of policy, expect everything to be hollowed out. Expect all SOEs to malfunction. Expect the entire state to collapse. Because this is a case of ideology trumping economics, trumping reality, trumping performance. And it destroys countries. It happened before and it will happen again. And we are not special. It will happen here too.